Well, good morning everybody. This morning I thought I'd bring you around. Been a while since I recorded just feeding and watering the animals and those kinds of things. Bring you around and we'll feed and water the animals, we'll milk the cow, we'll do a few things like that. And I also want to talk about the fact that AI, artificial intelligence, how that's going to affect even like traditionally known as white collar jobs, right? I remember whenever I was working with my dad was an electrician by trade, and we were at a factory, and that factory had this robot that was taking basically saran wrap and wrapping these large pallets, right? And they were wrapping the pallets that had all the product on them to hold the product on top of the pallet. And I remember asking my dad, I said, Dad, before the robot did that, how many people did it take to do that job? And he said, well, you know, usually it took about 2 people to do that job. So that robot took at least, maybe 6 to 8 people's job by the time you count all the shifts and all of that kind of stuff, right? And so I was like, man, Dad, everyone's worried about all kinds of immigration or whatever taking jobs, but what about robots? And what about artificial intelligence? I remember whenever they started putting self-checkouts in stores, I remember telling one of the checkout ladies, because I wouldn't use the self-checkouts, I still don't. If I can avoid it at all, I don't use it. Which means that sometimes, like at Lowe's, I have to walk clear to the other end of the store and go out the contractor checkout line, which is fine with me, I don't care. But I remember telling her how that's going to take jobs. They're like, no, it's not gonna happen, they still need us, all this kind of stuff. I remember asking a lady at Lowe's, because I did have to use the self-checkout one morning. I was there early and there wasn't anybody in the checkout line. She was managing 4 of the self-checkout lines, and I asked her if they were paying her manager's pay for managing all of those self-checkouts, and she just looked at me like I was crazy. She said no, like the thought had never occurred to her. So let's go this morning and milk the cow and take care of the animals, and let's have a discussion about the future. Appreciate you guys watching. Stick around.
Oh, but now I am found. Was blind, but now I see.
Gotta get Forrest fed first thing this morning. Because if I don't, he'll just move the whole time we're milking. Morning, bud. If you're wondering why I was snapping my fingers to distract him, if you're new to the channel, Forrest is blind. That's why he's in this pen. It's too dangerous to keep him out in the pasture. He's gonna hurt himself, tear a fence up and those kinds of things. So he keeps in this pen, and the kids come out here all the time, visit with him. They love coming out to pet on Forrest. He's gotten used to our voices, so he usually comes right to the fence for a good scratching. Let's get to milking. For those of you that don't know, Wilma is not our first milk cow. Wilma would be our second milk cow. Our first milk cow was Stella. You can find some old videos with her in then. Stella died on us. She bloated, and then we got took care of, and then a week later she bloated again in the middle of the night, and she died. And so we lost her. This cow was given to us by some brothers and sisters in the Lord who wished to remain nameless. So we will honor that, but we're very thankful for Wilma. However, when we got Stella, that was our very first time ever having a milk cow. And of course, she died on us, which made it a little rough. But then we've got Wilma here, and we've been milking a little while now, not quite a year, but been milking a while. And I'll say this, I much enjoy the morning milking, and I much more enjoy milking in the wintertime. Which I know is backward, I get that, but I'm a polar bear. I enjoy the wintertime more. I enjoy the fall. a lot more. I enjoy spring. Summer's probably my least favorite season of the year. But in the summertime, it's hot, it's buggy. You guys get whapped with the tail. I get whapped with the tail. We spray her down with some homemade fly spray that works pretty good, except for when it rains, it washes it off. And we have been getting a little shower of rain most days anymore, which we are very thankful for. I will gladly keep making fly spray and spraying her down. However, it's hot, it's buggy. You're worried about the milk. You got to hurry up, or I want to hurry up and get it in the fridge so it can be cooling down. In the wintertime, it's so cold sometimes that it builds up ice in the bucket. You're not too worried about it getting hot. But just a point of reference, if you're going to get a dairy cow, I myself, I much prefer milking in the wintertime. You say, what about your hands? Don't they get cold? Well, they do a little bit, but here's the thing. Her udder, it's warm, even in the wintertime, right? So it kind of warms your hands up. Unless it's like super cold, your hands pretty well stay warm. And if they get too cold, you can always tuck them in between her leg and her udder. And it makes it not so bad. However, having a milk cow is totally worth it, right? We love the milk. We love being able to make dairy product from the milk, our own dairy product. I love being able to taste the difference from something homemade from our own raw, fresh milk versus what you might get at the store. It kind of blows my mind, the difference. So much so that it's like, man, a friend of mine, we've talked a lot about this. If you take a cut of meat from, I don't know, maybe even 100 years ago, 200 years ago, if you take somebody and you give them a cut of meat from today's era, would they even recognize it? An interesting question to ask ourselves. Done with the milking, on to the rest of the animals. Now it is time to feed the chickens. That is, if I can get the lid off. Our chickens typically get a mix of egg layer, pellet, and scratch feed, but we also feed them kitchen scraps. I've got them in this mobile pen. I can move them around, which I need to. I haven't had time to do it lately and haven't thought about it. So all I have to do is come out here at night, shut the door, and the next morning just move them. But I haven't thought of it, and I haven't been really busy. Now we have to get the goats took care of. They get this ration, goat ration. A little bit of black oil sunflower seed. And with this heat, I've been putting, well, heat or not, but I've been putting some mineral in them. And then I give them another scoop of ration. I kind of layer it because this goes into two different feed pails. I can't talk this morning. A little bit of sunflower seed again. They really like these things. It's good for them. A little bit more mineral, not much. Don't need a whole lot. All right, let's go see the crazy goats. There you guys go. Hey, back up. Back up. Quit it. Guys, this is an every morning thing, just like this. Back up. Give me some room. There you go. That's part of the reason why I try to put it in two different ones. Only way you stand a chance. We've had the goats for a little while. We really like them. Obviously they don't produce nothing for us. They're still young, but eventually they will. We've just had them in here around this old building that was here when we moved here. I've kind of used this building to just stack some stuff around. Having a tiny house and not having a shop or anything like that, you got to find some place to put stuff. And unfortunately, you don't always have the best options, right? And so now weeds had all grown up in it and all of that. And so I just put the fence around and let the goats eat the weeds down. Seems to be the easiest way to take care of a weed problem to me. All right, let's move on. And now for the meat rabbits. So if you're thinking, Justin, I've not seen you water any of the rest of your animals, well, that's because they haven't needed water. However, our rabbits do. This water comes from our mini split air conditioning system. Just the water it pulls out of the air. We catch it. We use it to water things like our rabbits, maybe the dog, or whatever's left. I usually dump on some sort of garden plant. I really like these for the feed out rabbits. Metal, they don't chew it up. It works great. Give them a little feed. These guys are actually ready to butcher. I need to get that done. Say hi, rabbits. Totally forgot to record feeding and watering the breed rabbits, but there they are. So we talked about things like robots and self-checkouts taking some like low income jobs, but what about even the higher income jobs that AI is sure to overtake eventually anyhow, right? So let's think about like a lawyer. If AI is able to give you the perfect law answers, why do you need a lawyer for? Why are you paying that lawyer the absurd amount of money they are going to ask for, right? What about even like medical practices, right? Maybe not all of it, but some of it anyway, right? What if you just put in all of your symptoms, everything you've got going on, maybe it suggests a test, some blood work that's done, and then after that, it tells you exactly what kind of medicine to take. I do know that a report that I read earlier is that writers that write like movies and TV shows and stuff, they're on strike, scared to death that AI is going to overtake their way of life. So then what is the answer? If artificial intelligence and robots and all these things, if they are taking people's jobs, whether it be low income or high income, right? Because that's going to affect everything. If you take somebody's source of income away, it's going to affect everything, how you buy everything and all of that stuff, right? So then what's the answer? Well, the answer is, of course, universal basic income, right? UBI. This is the reason why people like WorldCoin are making such a hard push to be at the cutting edge of this iris screening so that you can prove that you're a human and then give you a universal basic income, right? So that is the supposed answer. And you know what? That sounds like a perfect little setup, right? Doesn't that just sound good? You'll get money for doing nothing. Everybody gets a set amount of money. You can go spend it and do it however you want to, kind of, right? Doesn't that sound great? Except for, can you imagine the amount of control that can be done with that? Can you imagine? Maybe you want to buy something that everybody doesn't necessarily agree with, right? Like, I don't know, ammunition or a firearm. What if you do things on social media, like make YouTube videos that says things like, hey, I think this might be the mark of the beast, or this is paving the road for the mark of the beast. Well, maybe you don't get as much money that month, or maybe you get no money that month, or maybe you get the money but you can't spend the money on necessities. What if when you go to the grocery store, you like to buy something a little special every once in a while, like chocolate syrup for your milk? But what if whoever is giving you the universal basic income says, you know what, that's not necessary, and every time you buy chocolate syrup, we're going to go ahead and tax you something a little bit extra or whatever, right? Not to mention the fact that I believe in order to get this universal basic income, in order to get this non-cash currency that is sure to be on the rise, in order to get that, you'll have to take something called the mark of the beast, which means all the children of God need to be out of it anyway, right? But you see, I don't think a lot of people are considering the real impacts of how this will take jobs away. I appreciate you guys watching. We'll catch you on the next video.